Hello, welcome to the C12 Mrs. Baker's Monster Papers series. This is question 1 of paper 4. So group 1 elements, group 7 elements and the transition elements are found in different parts of the periodic table. Describe the trend in the reactivity of the group 1s. You would say as you move down the group, reactivity increases. You could also say as you move up the group, reactivity decreases, but we usually talk about moving down the group. When potassium is added to water, a chemical reaction occurs. State 2 observations that can be made when potassium is added to water. So I'm going to underline the 2 so I don't forget that I need to write 2, and I'm going to write 2 bullet points straight away to know that I'm getting the 2 marks here. So 2 observations. The first one would be that it floats. The second one could be that it burns with a lilac flame. You could also have, this would get the marks, but you could also have anything from it dissolves. You could have that it moves around on the water. You could have that it bubbles or fizzes or effervesces. You could also have that it melts. There are many things that you could have written for this. Write a chemical equation for the reaction of potassium with water. So potassium plus water makes potassium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Now what we have to do is balance it. So we need a 2 there, and a 2 there, and a 2 there. Then we've got 4 hydrogens and 4 hydrogens, 2 potassiums, and we've got 2 oxygens and 2 oxygens here, all balanced. You get 1 mark for the balancing and 1 mark for the species. Excess aqueous potassium iodide is added to chlorine. Write a chemical equation for the reaction that occurs. So we're talking about the group 7s here, when potassium iodide is added to chlorine. So we need to add potassium iodide and chlorine together. Remember, if ever it says the words chemical equation, what it's actually referring to is a symbol equation. If it wants you to write the word equation, it will say word equation. So potassium iodide added to chlorine. Remember, chlorine is diatomic. Have no fear of ice cold beer. Chlorine is diatomic, and we are going to make potassium chloride and iodine by itself as a diatomic molecule, because iodine is also diatomic. So now we need to balance it. We need to balance our iodines over here, and then we need to balance our potassiums and chlorines over there. So 2 marks. Again, 1 for the species, 1 for the balancing. State the final colour of the reaction mixture, or the final colour has to be the colour of one of these. We know that this is colourless, so this one will be the colour that we actually see, which will be a red-brown colour. Chromium is a transition element. So chromium has a high melting point, okay? That we know that this is a group 1 comparison question. So straight away, we're going to go up and we are going to just highlight which are the ones that are the same and which are the ones that are different. So chromium has a high melting point. Well, that's different. The group 1s have a low melting point, so it's not the same. Chromium is a good conductor of electricity. That's the same. So, chromium is a good conductor of electricity. Many chromium compounds are soluble in water. Well, many of the group 1 compounds are soluble in water. There's these ones up here Potassium chloride, potassium iodide, they are soluble. Hydrated chromium 3 sulfate is green. No, because that's not the same. We know the group 1 compounds are colourless. Chromium forms the chlorides, chromium chloride and chromium chloride, but with chromium as a different oxidation state. So definitely the group 1s can only have an oxidation state of +1. Oxides of chromium act as catalysts in the manufacture of polyethylene, while only the transition metals can act as catalysts. Use the information to give 2 properties of chromium which are different. So we can choose any one of the 4 that we've highlighted. So we can say, let's just go from the top. Chromium has a high melting point. Please don't write MP in the exam. Don't be lazy. You must write melting point. I can be lazy because I've already got my IGCSE. So we can choose any one of these bottom 3 here. So I'm just going to say chromium forms coloured compounds, because that's the property, okay? The property is not that chromium is green. The property is that chromium forms coloured compounds, or transition metals form coloured compounds. 2 properties that are similar, well, we've only got 2, so we're just going to bring them down. Good conductor of electricity, good conductors. Now you're committing to both of them. You're saying they're both good conductors of electricity, and the compounds tend to be soluble because they're usually ionic, a metal with a non-metal. And that's the end of question 1.